Hi, I'm Berit Stover.
And I'm Beth Mund.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations on the Sacred Letter channel. Beth and I have been hosting weekly Zoom meetings every Monday night. You're welcome to join us at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. And we have been discussing different topics inspired by the guides and people who we are connecting with on the other side. And last week, we had a very interesting conversation about releasing judgment and all that goes around that and all the possibilities that lie behind when we release our judgment. And we're going to share with you some of what came through from the other side and ideas of how to identify and how to move into releasing all that weighs us down and from experiencing all that can be.
Thanks, Berit. I'm excited to talk about this because one of the most profound experiences, the out-of-body experience that I had, led me to understand fully how there is no judgment coming from the other side. And this has been an interesting topic for me to ponder for myself and for everybody else. And when we were preparing for our call, I go into meditation and I receive information. I call it a download from the universe. And I'm going to get to the really important question that they asked me. And Spirit likes to talk to me in questions when they want me to listen and know the truth and the importance of what they're saying. But I just want to first speak to how judgment shows itself for so many of us. You know, the first way is that we judge ourselves. We are our hardest critic. And so many of us struggle with self-judgment. And what we're going to be speaking about is one of the quickest ways to release that self-judgment. And I just want to briefly say that the other two ways is that we can judge another. And that usually comes from something that we may see in them that we don't like about ourselves. And it's a little strange how that happens, that we might judge another for something we don't like in ourselves, but it's usually hard to see some things in ourselves. And it's just a defense that we have, that we might look to another and instead of feeling it for ourselves, we project it onto them. And the third way that judgment comes into our physical realm is that we feel that there's a judgment from God or the universe. Or any spiritual guide that you have. And like I said before, when I went and had my out-of-body experience and I was being shown the roles that I was playing in my life, there was no judgment. And I could have gone on playing them or not. Anything I accomplished in this life was my choice. And there is never any judgment, no matter how we live our life here, no matter the choices that we make, whether we live a shorter life or a long life. We've even received judgment around suicide, information around suicide, that there is no judgment around suicide, and anything else we make a choice within our life. So I just want to put that out there, that there's never any judgment coming from anyone else. It's always ourself. And that really, the question that was shown to me was, they had me look back on my life about all the things that I had judgment about, all the actions and the feelings, the thoughts, the behaviors, the experiences, some of what we normally judge ourselves for. And they asked me to look at it. And the question was, what if everything that we experienced in our life was correct? What if everything we did, everything we said, everything we thought, everything we felt was correct? And that was a real important question. And it enabled me to look at the judgments that I have around those areas. If I have a feeling comes up, I might look at it and think, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. Maybe nobody else is feeling this, or I'm not comfortable with the feeling, if it's anger or something like that. Or we have a thought, or we've done something, we've acted in a certain way. And yet what Spirit was telling me was that there is absolutely no judgment, because everything is correct. everything is correct because our intuition has led us into all of it, into our feelings, into our thoughts, into these experiences. And the reason it's correct is because it's all for our growth and our healing. And so our intuition, even when we don't know it, even when we don't listen to it, it is working for us. I know we have many questions, Berit, about how do I know my intuition is working, and how do I know the difference between my thoughts and my intuition? And our intuition is working whether we know it or not, and whether we hear it or not. And it has put us into situations that help us to heal. Maybe it's because of a prior situation. Maybe it's a wound inside of us. Maybe it's a relationship that needs healing or closure. But every single little thing has been correct. And if it's correct, there's no room or need for judgment.
So beautiful. I think it also, what you're reminding me too of is two things. One, you're speaking to shifting our perspective. So if we think everything is correct, if nothing else, it puts us in a place to look at things differently, to look at things in a new way, devoid of judgment, but also to sort of dig deeper and say, in a kind of a profound way, how to look at this. What can I learn from this? What can I take from this? And the second thing that you've brought up, Beth, that's so beautiful is honoring yourself for all that you have, that whole collective of experiences and feelings and situations that's brought you to this exact point of now. All of that is a culmination that has brought you here at this point to continue in your growth and your journey. And I think when we honor ourselves for that, we acknowledge the full spectrum of all of that, creates us who we are, and it helps us to move forward into who we're continuing to become. And it reminds me again of that we're a continuum, we're this energy, this beautiful energy that is continuing to experience and to express and to know things in new ways. And I think it also speaks to what's going on right now with our collective humanity and with our earth.
Yes, oh, absolutely. What you reminded me of is that we can't miss anything, and that we have these experiences because our soul needs to learn something. It just needs to learn something. It needs to heal something. And if we don't get onto it, if we don't, if the awareness doesn't spark in us, if we don't have an insight about perhaps why we're engaging in a certain behavior or in a relationship that is similar to the one that wasn't working before, it's because we just didn't learn our lesson yet. And there's no judgment around it. In fact, we've been given another chance. And so it's an opportunity, and we will be given endless chances. And that those on the other side, our guides, our teachers, our mentors, the universe will give us endless opportunities. It doesn't matter. There's just a gentleness and a love that comes from them. And the judgment that our minds create, it can come from a learned behavior from someone else who is separated from the truth of who they are, that they are love, unconditional love, and wholeness. And when we become separated from that, things like judgment come up, our mind. We wonder why we're doing something, or we're hard on ourselves. And these are just lessons, and these are just opportunities, and we will never miss them. And they are, like you said, looking back on all the opportunities that we've had in our life, they've all brought us to the point that we're at right now. The good, the bad, and the ugly. They brought us right to where we're at, and we would not have been there without them. So if we judge some as good as some as bad, it cuts us off from the awareness that it was all needed. All of it was needed. The challenges are needed. Just like what you brought up about what we're going through today, we're all being challenged, and we have days where we're feeling more challenged, days where we're feeling good, and we're going to look back on this time at some point, and we're going to look on it, and if we can, look at it without judgment and see all that unfolded. And we're always being guided. We're always being, our intuition, our soul, your soul is always guiding you into the perfect opportunity, the perfect space, the perfect relationship for you to learn and grow and heal.
Mm. So beautiful. I think you touched on it so perfectly, that we're always held with love, and not to separate ourselves from our judgment or our unworthiness of that love, because we're all so connected and we are love. And it brings us to when we are releasing that judgment, when we're going into that space to honor ourselves, to honor one another, it goes into a beautiful space of compassion. And it's through that compassion that we are lifted, and that we come into new awareness of what can be. And it's that weightlessness, it's that possibility. It's seeing things in a new way, knowing, again, there is no judgment. That good and bad that we perceive is really, two sides of the same coin. It's really how we look at something. And it speaks again to choice. We're always given free will. We always have choice. And it allows us to choose differently, to make new choices, and to know that we're not held and bound and tied to the old choices that we may have made. Yes, we have done different things, what we could perceive as good and perceive as bad, but that we can choose differently. And it is that continuum of living, of experiencing, of expressing all that we are here with, each of us with our different gifts, here to fully express.
That's beautiful. And you reminding me of an example that we could talk about. But that compassion, there are things that will help release the judgment. We're trying to give you an overall understanding of judgment, but there are certain things that will help. One is that question to ask yourself, what if everything I did is correct because it helped me to learn or to heal? What, even when we've been rejected by someone, maybe that person was not supposed to be in your life. If we failed at our business, maybe we were supposed to be, or our path was a different business where we would be using more of our gifts, to release the outcome, so that we and have that compassion, so that that we have an understanding that everything is correct. I just keep hearing that word from them, that everything is correct, because it's leading us in a direction, it's healing us, it's giving us hope, and it's giving us guidance. And the second thing is the compassion, that if we have compassion for ourselves, that maybe we're in a relationship with someone who doesn't treat us as we deserve, and we would like to stop engaging in these relationships. We get out of one and we get into a similar relationship. When we start having compassion for ourselves, it takes the weight off, as Berit had said. It opens up our awareness, so we can make a better choice or a different choice, so we can learn. And it's the learning that moves us forward, that heals us. But when we have the judgments, we don't get to that learning. We just beat ourselves up, right? We're very hard on ourselves. We make ourselves feel worse. Or if someone is struggling with an addiction, and they can't stop. But one of the things that continues addiction is, when we can't stop, we judge ourselves, which makes it less likely that we're going to stop at any time. But when we go, or when not even the extreme of an addiction, but just say we would like to go on a diet, and on day 3, we eat something that is not on our diet. And we can either beat ourselves up and think, oh, I blew it, I'm no good, I can't do this, I'll never do this, I'll never lose weight. We go down the rabbit hole, right? The judgment makes us go down that rabbit hole. And then we just feel like crap, right? We don't feel good. And then those possibilities and that choice and that love that we really are, it feels further away. It separates us out further. But if we were on day 3 to have that piece of cake, we say, oops, oh gosh, oops, I did it again. I had that cake. I used a little Britney Spears reference, but we have that cake. And so what? What if we just said, so what? You know what? I'll do better next time, or not. But this is really hard, and I have compassion for myself, and I'm going to try it again. I promise you, if you begin to speak kinder with more compassion to yourself, you will start to open up and have insight, and those judgments will automatically begin to fall away. And so the last piece is, so the first is that everything is correct. The second is to have compassion. And the third is to just become curious. Curiosity and judgment cannot exist at the same time. So if you become curious, oh, why did I think that? Or why am I feeling that in this situation? Is this have some insight and awareness for me? Why did I do that? Those questions will help to release the judgment, because one, you won't be judging while you're asking yourself those questions. It will bring forward some compassion, because your answers might surprise you about why you're feeling that way. You might find a truth in there that you didn't realize. And it will bring you to a path where you can start asking more questions about what if everything is correct, and know that your intuition is putting you in the perfect place.
It's so true and so beautiful and so wondrous. That curiosity, and they always say, ask and you will hear, seek and you will find. So it is that encouragement to hold yourself in that gentle love, but to go into the world with all that it is and all that you are, and to seek with a curiosity that opens up things that you could never have imagined, and things that will come into your path. And when you are, as you said, sort of peeling off the layers of judgment and the things that keep us weighed down, we are lighter and we are more responsive to see what comes in our path and comes into our awareness, and to follow that and to open up new ideas and new ways of seeing things and new revelations of what can be. And it's all there. It's just tapping into that. And I think you're so right. It's when we look for the things that keep us weighed down, like judgment, like blame, like, that critical side. And we look knowing that we are always whole, that we are always loved, and hold ourselves in that sacred space. Those possibilities and that freedom becomes.
Yes, that space helps you to ask those questions and have that compassion, and then and get curious. And when the judgment slips away, you feel more of that space. You feel more of that love. It's a very circular process, and
that connection, and not that feeling of separation. You feel connected.
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling of connection, and that's where the unconditional love comes, because your separation falls away. So this is a judgment is near and dear to my heart, because I experienced a lot of it in my life, but it also and I was weighed down a lot by it, until I got curious, until I started asking questions about it. Why are we judging? Why do people judge so much? And what does it do for us and not do for us? And that curiosity brought a lot of amazing answers, that I hope that you can all use and understand and try and apply to your own life. And so you can get on, instead of going down the rabbit hole, you can get on that circular feelings of love, unconditional love, and connection and wholeness. Where judgment, there's just no room. There's just no room for judgment when you're spinning in that realm, as opposed to down the rabbit hole. So thank you so much for joining us. And this is the Sacred Letters channel, where we are having conscious conversations. And we welcome you to our Zoom calls. If you join our community Sacred Letters page, we will inform you of the next Zoom call and what we will be doing. And we will put the links below as to how you can get in touch with us and find out more.
Thank you for joining us, and love to you all.